the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities and realities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision, but today, well lived, makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. To the God that is called by many names, we ask that you look well upon our gathering. We gather from all walks of life, each facing joys and sorrows, trials and triumphs, love and despair. We gather at this hour on this day, feeling the heat of summer already, also recognizing the transient nature of this town and of this life. We remember those suffering from the wrath of Mother Nature, who may be homeless, hungry, or hopeless. We are reminded of the continued acts of war, violence, and hatred. And in our brief time together on this day, may the hope and possibility of peace, actual peace, prevail. May we replace random acts of hatred and violence with random acts of love and kindness. May we rekindle the flame of hope for peace on earth and goodwill towards all humanity. And may we reevaluate our relationship with time as to enjoy its passing, and let the sweet breath of life continue to sustain us all wherever we find ourselves on this wondrous journey. May it be so, and amen. Our second reading this morning is entitled Time by the Reverend David Rankin. Time does nothing. It is an empty vessel waiting to be filled with something and capable of being filled with anything. Time does not tell, we tell. Time does not cure, we cure. Time does not drag, we drag. Stop cheering or blaming time when we are the heroes or the villains. The vessel is ours to pour into, and the drink, sour or sweet, is our own concoction. Here ends the readings. We begin this morning with a story. Once upon a time, there was a man who served many valuable years as an advisor to a king. Nevertheless, politics being what they are, one day the man fell seriously out of favor. So seriously that the king sent for his advisor and declared that he would be put to death. However, because of the advisor's long years of service, the king told him that he would be given the honor of choosing in which way he was to die. Well, the advisor did not waste such an opportunity. He thought carefully, and finally he looked at the king. "Very well, your majesty," he said with a slight smile. "I choose to die of old age." Now, I realize this may seem rather an odd story to be telling all of you, but it gets right to the message today. And let me make it perfectly clear, the message today is not about kings or politics, old age, or even death. The message today is about time. The message today is about our relationship, what I would call our frantic relationship with time. Now, in our story, it appears that the hope was to put off the inevitable, one's own death. And yet, who cannot understand that idea? Putting death off as long as possible, or even in this case, of buying some time. Haven't we all tried to bargain and buy for more time? Oh, just one more day of vacation. Just one more week in Costa Rica. Writer Hans Reichenbach suggests that some of our difficulty with time comes from our fear of time. It's linked to our fear of death. He writes, our emotional response to the flow of time is largely determined by our irresistibility of its passing away. The flow of time is not under our control. We cannot stop it. We cannot turn it back. We have the feeling of being carried away by it helplessly, like a piece of lumber in the current of a river. Isn't this exactly how it feels sometimes? Being carried away by time, except often this seems like an exceptionally fast and flowing river. Time is moving, and it is moving faster than ever before. Saul Perlmutter, winner of the 2011 Nobel Peace Prize in Physics, and professor of the physics at University of California and the senior scientist at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, researched and documented this very concept. Through his research, it was discovered that the universe, originally thought to be shrinking, was actually expanding faster than it has ever expanded before. And they call this, they think it's the cause of something they call dark energy. That's a whole other sermon topic, and we'll get to that another day. But the idea that the universe is expanding at a rapid rate. So if the universe is expanding faster than we knew, it certainly makes sense that time seems to be accelerating at a faster rate than we've ever experienced before. Speaking of the fast speed of time, there's an ancient Sufi tale. It talks about the animals all met one day in assembly to complain about what the humans were taking from them. "They take my milk," said the cow. "They take my eggs," said the hen. "They take my flesh for bacon," said the hog. "They hunt me for oil," said the whale. Finally, the snail spoke. "I have something they would certainly take away from me if they could. Something they want more than anything else." The snail said, "I have time." I'm afraid the wise Sufi snail is right. Time is something we all want more than anything else. And yet we all have the time we need. We have each and every day. We have 24 long, glorious hours. We have 1,440 magnificent minutes. We have 86,400 sacred seconds to live out each day. I understand Reverend Kate sang that last Sunday from the musical Rent. The gift of time is ours for the taking. Therefore, it's not time that is the perceived problem, or the dueling dilemma, or the conundrum. I'm big on alliteration today. It's not time, but it's our allocation of time, our scheduling of time, our working with time, where the solution may be found. It's taking the gift of the Sufi snail and using it to our benefit. Still, it seems in the case of humans, our lives are constantly regulated by time. We mark time, we pass time, fill time, waste time. We have time cards, time sheets, and time clocks. We are pressed for time, regulated by time, and sometimes overwhelmed by time. Yet, as our reading stated, time does not tell. We tell. The vessel is ours to fill. To me, this speaks of our relationship with time. In my mind, my relationship with time was always on a linear. Time moved along the continuum that I set up. I was born in this time, 1952. I graduated from high school at this time, 1970. College, 1974. My master's, 1980. Seminary, 1999. Time was the very straight and narrow line that I created for my life. Along the timeline of my life, there were relationships that came and went, parents that lived and died, and all of the very human intensity and emotions that accompanied these relationships. The problem with this paradigm of time as linear is that each relationship moved along the timeline that I created there, and there was no room to revisit or reevaluate these relationships and all the emotions surrounding it, because time was linear. There's no going back in time. Time keeps moving forward. Rather, I have come to look upon time not so much as linear as a spiral going around. Time turns into itself, lifting us higher than we ever thought possible, giving us grand views of its turning, as well as dipping us to incredibly low points where the way out at some solutions may feel endless or boundless or hopeless. Yet time passes. Time does not drag. We drag. What may have haunted us from the past may resurface once again, but we are now in a different place to view and to understand these experiences and these emotions. I noticed this for myself very clearly as I began my recovery process from childhood sexual abuse. As these memories began to resurface very, very unexpectedly, I thought the help and guidance that I needed. My recovery followed what seemed to me on a similar timeline continuum. What I've learned over the years is that such memories and painful experiences do resurface again and again and again. And if time is viewed as a spiral, and my relationship and reactions to these experiences are also coming from a different place as well, I'm viewing these things from a whole different perspective. This is what I call wisdom. Wisdom comes from our mindful response to direct experiences and not from blind reactions to time's passing. I look around this room and I see the gentle passing of time reflected in the eyes of wisdom looking back at me. For many of us here today, fully acknowledge the circular passing of time as the ebb and flow of life dips and dives and takes us for a ride we never thought imagined. This is the holy relationship with time, with full awareness, staying present with what is happening right now, in this very moment. Staying in the moment. Being present in the moment is the basis for most meditation practices. I was taught the technique of Vipassana meditation under the tutelage of S.N. Goenka. In attempting to keep my attention on my breath, I found I was successful for a few seconds. And then bang, your mind is off. And where does the mind go? Well, generally, the mind will go either to the past or to the future. To teach the mind to stay present in the present moment is completely retraining your mind and thus altering your relationship with time. As writer Evelyn Underhill wrote, most of us spend our lives conjugating three verbs: to want, to have, to do. Yet the fundamental verb is to be. What we adults need to learn is simply to be, states Underhill, to shift our time focus from the past, what was, or the future, what will be, to the present, what is right now. Living in the moment, staying present to the passing of time, gives us a whole new perspective. I recall this very clearly, getting carried away by time, when I attended a reunion of sorts with friends that all worked together back at a summer resort while we were in college. So I'm talking about the early 70s. And I've never attended a high school reunion, even though I was president of my class. But anyway, that's another sermon. But this is the first time I saw people after 40 years, and not seen them for 40 years. It was like a visual representation of being carried away by time, one that none of us had any control over. And let me tell you, it was quite a shock. They had all aged. I guess this is what happens after 40 years. People change. I mean, I could not recognize some of these people at all. Now, naturally, I had not changed. I mean, well, not that much. I mean, really. But I saw myself every day. I felt the same. I felt I looked the same. You know, they say that time marches on, and, well, I just think time was marching on right across some of their faces. Not mine, of course, but theirs. As we move forward on this wonderful journey of life, may our relationship with time become not one of a linear level, reluctantly languishing along its formidable length, but rather may this relationship of time be one of forever turning, their forever spiral, spinning us upward to heights we never imagined and dipping us down to low points we never knew existed. Yet with each turn of the spiral, may wisdom and want and worry be released as we recognize the forever turning of the spiral of time. May we look out of those burdens we carry along this journey, so with each turn the gift of life becomes lighter, freer, and happier. This reminds me of a story, perhaps you've all heard this before, which I'll end with. One day there were two monks that set out on a pilgrimage to a holy shrine. They'd been studying for years, following the path of purity, discipline, and renunciation. After several hours of travel, the two monks came to a rushing river that was too wide to cross. They noticed a young woman standing on the nearby river, gazing at the dismay of the churning waters. She was dressed in a sari made of fine silk, clearly on her way to a celebration. Immediately, the first monk averted his eyes from the sight of the lovely woman and plunged into the water, struggling to reach the other side. However, without a word, the second monk picked up the woman in his arms and carried her across the stream, where he set her down and joined his companion on the road. They walked in silence for several miles, and with each and every step, the first monk grew more distraught. He wondered, how could his friend commit such an evil? They were expressly forbidden any contact with women, lest draw their minds away from their spiritual pursuits. Around and around and around the young monk's thinking went, until finally he could not contain himself anymore. How could you touch that woman? You have broken your vows. The second monk turned to his companion with a mildly bemused expression and replied, "My friend, I set that woman down at the side of the river. It is you who've been carrying her all this way." My friends, may our wonderful relationship with time free us from worries and woes, and may we rejoice in the forever turning of time. In the words of an old Irish proverb, God created time, and God created plenty of it. Use it wisely, my friends. Use it wisely. Amen and blessed be.